Now it's going. It took a minute. Hi, everyone. Aloha. Welcome to Wake the Fuck Up Wednesday. Yeah, so I'm like profusely sweating because I just got back from my morning run and it was way longer than I thought. Because I had to, I thought I could cut through things and I apparently couldn't. So here I am. Here I am, profusely sweating for you. All right. Well, today we're talking about grief and loss. And I decided to do this topic this week because last week when we were jamming on impermanence, there were a lot of emails that came in from people saying, like, okay, I understand intellectually that, about impermanence and that, a key skill is to embrace impermanence. But what do I do with this grief that I feel, right? And so, totally legit question. And so that's what this week's pod is on. So today, that's what I wanted to jam about in a little bit of a different way. Before I start, speaking of impermanence, I saw a 16 fucking foot tiger shark yesterday while I was diving. It was so crazy. I was like, what? So insane. It was really close to me too. And I was like, are you kidding me? Hey, Zoe. All right. Anyway, so grief. A lot of the times people think, okay, I experience grief when someone dies, obviously, right? But I want to really just point out that we feel grief with any kind of important loss. Like, this could be the loss of a relationship, it could be the loss of a job that you love, it could be the loss of a physical capacity, right? It could be the loss of, someone who really wanted to have a child not being able to. It could be, one I see a lot in my coaching is, this loss, this grief over the loss of not having lived life to the fullest, right? Kind of like the loss of a dream. And so we can have this intense experience of grief in any of those contexts, okay? And the thing about grief is we often want to get it over with, right? We're often like, this fucking hurts and I want to be done with it. Like anger, sometimes we're like, yes, I'm going to stay in anger because being pissed feels powerful and I feel strong. And at least it's like activating energy. But grief opens us up to vulnerability. And I just want to say that that's why I feel like it's one of the most amazing emotions to have access to as a human because of its transformative qualities. So I wanted to share a little kind of like parable almost of that I heard Tara Brach talk about once. And it was with a troubled widower. Someone had lost their spouse and they make their way to an old wise woman to ask about, to talk about their troubles. And they walk along a stream and she sees all this suffering, right? And the person just starts to tremble and is like, what is the point? And she invites them to sit on a stone near the stream, and she takes a long branch and swirls it in the water and says, well, that all depends on what it means to you to be alive, right? And then the person drops their shoulders. The old woman gives them a branch and she says, go on, touch the branch to the water. And as they poke the branch in the stream, there's something comforting about feeling the water in their hand through the branch, right? And she touched their hand and she said, you see, you can feel the water without putting your hand in the water. That is what meaning feels like. Meaning can help us move through grief. It's so important, yeah. So the widower's like, well, I still don't get it. And she says, close your eyes and feel your spouse who's now gone. And that you can feel them in your heart without being able to touch them, just as you can feel the water through the branch without being able to touch it. This is how meaning saves us, that you can feel them in your heart without being able to touch them. This is how meaning saves us, right? And the widower starts crying, and the old woman puts her arms around them, and she says, no one knows how to live or how to die. We only know how to love, how to lose, and how to pick up branches of meaning along the way. So, meaning. In some way, those moments where we can find refuge in a larger truth, right? In something whole, in something sacred. That includes awe, right? And so grief is a kind of pathway of opening to loss and discovering if there's really that opening, right? And I know that a lot of people feel like sometimes talking about this stuff calls it in. So like I had a very superstitious family, but I just want to encourage you and let you know that this shit's going to happen no matter what. And when we talk about it and can prepare for it, then we don't constantly try to hide from it, right? Like, are we available for all of the stuff that life is going to send our way? Ignoring it, going la 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 la, doing all that, that is not going to keep us from experiencing loss, right? Like, you know, I started my coaching business because I wanted to help people live a full life without having to get cancer to help like initiate that thought process. So, you know, my coaching business I started, I've had cancer twice. I had kidney cancer, then melanoma. And I went through a real grieving process of, you know, my body had never failed me. I was a climbing guide for a decade. My body was strong and healthy and fit. And then I saw getting cancer like a failure. And then I got it again. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with my body? And through my grief process, though, through really grieving the loss of really was an illusion that we are immune to any of this, grieving the loss of my 100% faith in my body, through that, I was able to create what I feel is an amazing body of work that helps people live life to the fullest, a life of freedom, adventure, and purpose, right? Without having to get cancer first. But sometimes we do, right? We lose relationships, we get sick, jobs change, plans don't turn out how we want. Some people, you know, maybe they want to follow a certain path, but because of financial reasons, they can't. Like college wasn't available to them financially, even if they got in. I remember I really, really wanted to go to acupuncture school after college. There was 5 branches, institute in Santa Cruz, and I had some friends that had gone there. And I really wanted to go, and they were like, you can take out all these loans and yada, yada. And I looked at everyone who was in the class, and I was like, wow. Like, everyone in this class is from, like, a privileged family. And I was like, I actually am putting myself into debt in a way that I'm not comfortable with right now, so I didn't do it, right? Obviously, later, I went and studied it, and it was great. It worked out. But for many people, that's what happens, right? And so how do we be with this grief? And here's a poem I love from Hafiz. It says, don't surrender your loneliness so quickly. Let it cut more deep. Let it ferment and season you as few human or even divine ingredients can. Something missing in my heart tonight has made my eyes so soft, my voice so tender, my need for God absolutely clear. Right? So grief is this powerful opportunity to awaken through the loss, right? So, yet, I mean, I just want to clarify, like this, or emphasize, this is really, grief is a type of soul work. It brings us to our most human, our most vulnerable place, right? And Carl Jung said, embrace your grief, for there the soul will grow. So we explore this, right? And we need to first become aware of how we bury grief. Like, how do we avoid it when we've lost a relationship, or like some of us may just move right on to the next relationship, or have a bunch of like meaningless sex, or distraction, right? Because our first inclination is not to go there, right? But there are consequences to ungrieved loss. Like, it comes out later. So how do we turn towards it, right? And towards all impermanence, right? Because it's inseparable. And we are one of those kind of quick twitch cultures that as soon as something's unpleasant, we want to put a soothing cream on it. We want to turn up the air conditioner, or turn up the heater, or turn everything down. We want to take medicine for the pain. We want to, just kind of look away, right? And we often think that loss is unnatural. Like, why is this happening? This doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense. It's a part of life, right? But when we think it's unnatural, we think something's gone wrong and that something's bad, right? Like aging's bad. Like my story last week about the age-defying serum, right? And so here's a joke. A Catholic priest, Protestant minister, and a rabbi are discussing what they'd most hope people would say after they die, right? And their bodies are on display in an open casket. And the priest says, I want someone to say he was a righteous man, an honest man, and really generous. And the minister says, I want someone to say he was kind and fair and good to his parishioners. And the rabbi says, well, I would hope someone say, oh, look, he's moving. Right? It's natural for us to want to avoid loss. It's natural for us to want to avoid impermanence and aging and dying and getting sick. Of course, right? And there are many people that go years and years without grieving, Like myself, I remember I'd had an abortion when I was 16, and I didn't grieve it for years. I mean, I was so young at the time, and it was so devastating for me, and I just wanted to forget about it. But it was there, and it wasn't until I opened up to the grief. I think I was like 18 or 19, and I was like, wow, I really need to process this grief. And I finally did, and it was so freeing, right? Other things we lose. Maybe we grieve the loss of our childhood because we had sexual abuse, or our parents had mental illness and neglected us. Or maybe we grieve the loss of a mother we never had, the mother that was kind and thoughtful and took care of us, put our needs first, right? So some people stay really busy, like I said. Some people try to avoid grief by people pleasing, right? Being good, trying to do everything right. And some of you might know the Mullah Nasruddin story. He loses his wife's bracelet and he's really panicky. And he's like, God, if you help me, I'll do anything. Anything. I'll donate half my week's salary. I devote myself fully to you. And then he sees it behind the cushion. He's like, never mind. I got it. Never mind. I found it. So we bargain, right? We have bargaining mind. We blaming the doctor who fell short, or the parent who abused, yeah. I know I blamed the doctor when my mom died. I blamed my mom when I was like having angry outbursts because of the abuse in our relationship, right? And the blame just carries on, but it blocks us from going into a healing presence with grief. Another way we do avoid grief, stop grief, is we blame ourselves. It feels like we're grieving because of the guilt, but we actually turn on ourselves. And I'm thinking right now of a patient I knew in her early 70s. She was overwhelmed at work, and she was like having some cognitive decline, right? And sorry, someone keeps trying to call me. And she was really afraid about this, right? Because she really identified with her intellect. She was 70, still working full time. And I know I identify with my intelligence and my brain, right? And so, for her, like feeling so much blame on herself, like, what am I doing wrong? Why is this happening to me, right? It was the same thing when I got cancer. It was like, what did I do wrong? Did I use too much insect repellent? Did I eat wrong? Was I too stressed? What did I do wrong to cause this, right? But the bottom line is, in any of these ways, we push away our vulnerability, right? And in doing so, we really close off to a really important part of our humanity, right? And when we do that, we create this kind of stagnant eddy off to the side that then gets blocked off with logs and rocks, and it gets stagnant, right? And over time, we manifest in depression and anxiety, despair, anger, right? We get so busy managing to avoid our grief that we cover this great mystery that's open to us, right? And it creates distance between us and others. So I want to read another poem to you. While I'm looking for this poem, I just also remember how, in the culture I've been exposed to in the West, it's not really appropriate to openly grieve, right? Like to cry in public and be very vocal and loud. And, I'm half Filipino, and in the Philippines, like at funerals, people are throwing themselves off onto the coffin, sobbing, like losing consciousness, walking. Like, I remember when my grandma died, my mom, like, kind of lost it for like 24 to 36 hours. And no one freaked out in my family. They were like, this is normal when we grieve, right? And so I just wanted to let you know that in most cultures, in many, many cultures, it's actually totally okay and encouraged to grieve openly. And so perhaps we need to participate in a cultural shift where, like in some traditions, you wear black so that people know you're in mourning. Not as a selfish way, but like, I'm in mourning, and people know, and they can hold you in that way. I wish that had happened when my mom died, so I could be like, sorry I was a bitch to you. I'm mourning right now, right? Like, our culture wants to not see it, but there's a wisdom in many, many cultures about how it is a sacred, mysterious time. Okay, so let me go here. Oh, one of the ways, I just want to clarify, because some people can get confused and think, okay, so this means that I just dive into the grief and don't try to escape it. And I just want to say that there is a skillful means and a compassionate means whereby we can use distraction when the grief seems overwhelming. Because many episodes of grief are precipitated by traumatic events. And so there is a level of wisdom and compassion with distracting for a while until our psyche feels ready to deal with it, okay? So maybe we can go read books, go to shows, hang out with friends, go on trips, whatever it is to distract ourselves. But the key thing is to eventually open to it, okay? But you have the wisdom, your inner healer has the wisdom to know when that's appropriate, okay? Mary Oliver, here it is, when she lost her partner of 40 years. She said she dreamed this poem in her sleep. So she's referring to her partner here. She says, "Someone I loved once gave me a box full of darkness. It took me years to understand that this too was a gift." Like the branch on the water, right? We sense the love, we sense the person, we sense it, but there's not a particular form that it's hitched to. So what can help us is becoming aware of that refuge that's really formless, right? And to not do it alone. We think we have to do it alone, but we do it together. Like when my mom died, you know, we, in the Filipino Catholic culture, you say a novena every night for, I think it's like 9 nights. Maybe it's longer. I don't know. I'm so bad. I should know that. But, you know, I'm Buddhist, but here we are saying the rosary every night. And I'm like, you know, the gift in this for me right now is being literally surrounded. Like, I couldn't have moved an inch where someone wasn't next to me praying. And bringing food and talking about my mom and hugging me and watching me cry and holding me. And like, I'm like, how much of this ritual is because we need to be surrounded by people and held by them in that way? So you don't need to do it alone. Yeah. Thich Nhat Hanh also talks about how, you know, when we lose people, their DNA is alive in us. We are connected in that way when we lose family, yeah? He says, as if we are both leaving footprints in the damp soil. So, I'm going to end with this poem by Susan Griffith. She says, "This will happen. We say, just give me a few more breaths and don't let it be terrible. Let it be soft, perhaps in someone's arms. Perhaps tasting chocolate, perhaps laughing, or asking, is it over already? Or saying, not yet, not yet. The sky at this moment has turned another luminous shade of blue. And see there, a child still plays among the newly fallen autumn leaves." It's okay to love this life and your dreams, and to be sad when things go. That doesn't mean that you're not spiritually evolved, right? It doesn't mean you're too attached. It means you can have such a present, mindful awareness of the sacredness of that moment, okay? So let grief have its way with you. It's a truly sacred time, and you are not alone, okay? You are not alone.